The MVP for the Vols against Oklahoma will be Nico Iamaleava, Dylan Sampson, James Pierce, or who do you want to throw in there?
Nico Iamaleava, Dylan Sampson, James Pierce, or just say other, because I mean you're going to see that you're on my wavelength with what you're doing.
Okay. Right, well, we should be. We work together every day. All right. Four Downs now is brought to you by our fantastic friends at City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. Here we go.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Downs. A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
Got a bunch of people on that YouTube page who have not hit the like button. We need that. Subscribe. And also, we want you to turn the notifications on. So ring that bell. All right, let's start with Cooper Mays saying this. Oh, no, Cooper Mays didn't play the timpani. Cooper Mays, what did you say?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thank you, Cooper. That's much better.
Although with the Law and Order music, Cooper Mays would be a great sheriff or a great detective, wouldn't he? Could you imagine if Cooper Mays comes to arrest you?
Yeah, I would be scared. Mike, I think you're lying to me. I know the truth. You're right, Cooper. I did it. I'm the dude.
They should have him interrogate Diddy.
All right, so it's 5 players to watch. Number 5 before we start counting down some downs.
Number 5 on my list is, I named one person, but it's really a collective. And I'm talking obviously about my guy, my fellow Memphian, Amari Thomas. But it's really the entire defensive line, because the entire interior of the defensive line should absolutely, they might be getting blocked by air in this game. And so they should go off. And Amari Thomas is the leader of that unit. He's the anchor, so he takes the number 5 slot.
Don't be surprised if Jackson Moya makes a big play in this game.
And I threw him out there as a name, so I wouldn't at all.
Okay, I'm just a little bit of insight, a little bit of what I'm hearing. Don't be surprised.
Coop here. First down.
Who's next in the players to watch, Caleb?
So next in the players to watch, and this is going to be kind of interesting to a lot of people, but just bear with me on it real quick, and that would be the guy who just said first down, Cooper Mays. Mm-hmm. And here's why. Oklahoma, whatever else you think about them, has a great defensive line. They are top 5 in pass rush. They are top 10 in yards allowed per carry on the ground, or top 5 in sacks, top 10 in fewest yards allowed per carry on the ground, and top 25 in fewest rush yards allowed per game. They have a great rush defense.
Yes.
And they stop the run, and they get after the quarterback. And that can win you a lot of games, even if you're struggling offensively. The entire offensive line is, we're talking about Dylan Sampson, maybe Deshaun Bishop, all these guys. It's going to be the entire offensive line that's going to have to deliver for Tennessee. When I say the entire offensive line, kind of similar to an Amari Thomas, who's the anchor of the entire offensive line, Cooper Mays. This is the type of game where Cooper Mays becomes an All-American.
What if I told you that this is actually an easier assignment for Cooper Mays than NC State was?
What? Okay, now I need to hear this. How is this an easier assignment?
Okay, because Cooper had a guy lined up on his nose the whole entire time. He was, and I think NC State's going to prove, even though they run that 3-3, that I have, 3-3-5. I think they're going to prove to have a pretty good trio of defensive linemen. So I can tell you that having somebody lined up on your nose is not a lot of fun. I mean, you don't get leverage. You don't dictate as much. So while Coop will be playing better players, the scheme actually is more to his liking. That's not even telling me that. That's me knowing what he thought about the NC State game. So he didn't say that per se, but I actually think this is an opportunity for Coop to actually go out there. He feels great. He's doing a fantastic job, and really challenge for first team All-American center. I think this is where you make a statement, and I think that Tennessee's offensive line, and I'll have my pick tomorrow. But that's where I stand on Coop. I think he's going to have a really good game.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right, who's next?
All right, so next on the list, it's a knock on how bad their rushing attack is, and I give everybody that. However, Jackson Arnold is a mobile quarterback, so Tennessee needs to contain Jackson Arnold in the pocket to make sure that they keep Oklahoma's offense looking as bad as it has been. And that means Keenan Peely is crucial in this game. Keenan Peely's got to stay at home. Oklahoma's got a bad rush offense. Their only threat is Jackson Arnold as a dual threat quarterback, and that means Keenan Peely. He may not rack up a lot of stats, but Keenan Peely staying at home is going to be crucial for the defense to do what it wants to do.
I think Keenan Peely is going to have a great game. I think Keenan Peely will have 8 tackles, 2 for a loss.
Oh,
I think he's really, really good. All right. I forgot the down. What down are we on?
we're at third down.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Who's next, Caleb?
You brought him up, and it's time. It's time for him to explode the way everybody expected him to. And I mean, obviously, James Pierce. Tennessee's defensive front should absolutely give Oklahoma's offensive front hell. And if it is a defensive slugfest, they can't pull James Pierce. And I think now Tennessee has shown enough that you can't sell out to double team James Pierce, as teams have been doing, or run away from him because they're good enough on the other side. So, yes, James Pierce, I think, should get a ton. I think I got 2 sacks from James Pierce in this game.
I almost feel like they're waiting, or that if there's one thing that they have held back, it's James Pierce, who was a factor against NC State. He doesn't have a sack yet, but he was definitely a factor. Only played 10 plays against Chattanooga. They may be holding back some offensive stuff, as Jimmy alluded to. I wouldn't doubt it. But I think the one thing they're holding back is some unique things they can do with Pierce that they didn't have to show against NC State, because that game got out of hand so quickly. All right, the player you should most watch in the Tennessee-Oklahoma game, the most important is Caleb going to take the easy way out and go with that quarterback guy. Work trucks, all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. Now, time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting, all about time. Work Trucks saves your time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle from Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an iPod work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, it's Work Trucks. That's a fact with an X. Work Trucks, they'll have you fit to a T. Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, there it is online. Those are some nice trucks. Work Trucks with an X. If you're a contractor, you got to know them. Work Trucks, LLC.com. What down is it, Coop?
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
All right. Tennessee's top player to watch, brought to you by Work Trucks, is
Tennessee's top player to watch is the guy who it is time for his Heisman moment to come. I told you guys this at the beginning of the year. I told you guys this from the minute the Iowa game ended in January, that the Oklahoma game would be the moment that the national media can't stop salivating over Nico Iamaleava. And that's exactly what they're going to do here. I think Josh Heupel has prepared for this game, and I think he has prepped to specifically turn Nico Iamaleava into a superstar and into a Heisman winner. And here's where it's extra personal. We haven't talked about this all week, Dave. We talked about Bob Stoops forcing the offense on Josh Heupel, which annoyed him, which got him fired, which was unfair. We've also talked about then he brought in Lincoln Riley to run the offense Josh Heupel wanted to run, and he got the quarterbacks Josh Heupel always wanted to recruit, Baker Mayfield, people like that. What happened, Dave? Lincoln Riley coached 3 Heisman winners at Oklahoma, I believe. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, or was it 2? You guys could correct me. Maybe it was just 2. But either way, multiple Heisman winners at Oklahoma with quarterbacks that Josh Heupel always wanted to be able to coach, and Bob Stoops wouldn't let him. Nor would he let Heupel run the offense. Heupel was also screwed out of the Heisman in 2000 in his mind. He wants this game to make up for all of that and to turn Nico Iamaleava into the Heisman favorite in college football. And I think he's going to force that to happen if he has to.
So this is it. You're all in. You've said it before. And so far, what Caleb has predicted has been right. Things have gone incredibly well for Tennessee and Nico. I think we all had high expectations, but Caleb, I think the general fan has been a little bit blown away by Nico and what he's been able to do this year. That we've shared it. We have a lot of insight into the program, but I don't think that the average fan expected things to be this good. Portions of the program brought to you by Asia Cafe. Hey, that's where I'm eating tonight. Treat yourself to authentic Asian cuisine, handcrafted from guarded family recipes. 5 locations to choose from. AsiaCafe.org. That's AsiaCafe.org. And don't forget about the 6-to-1 Brazilian Cocoa Energy Booster Premix Instant White Coffee, the Golden Label coffee bag with Philip Lim's grandfather and grandmother right there since 1909. That's the Lim Dynasty right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Again, AsiaCafe.org. So we're going to play a little bit of bracketology. I'm not sure exactly how Caleb is going to pull this off because a couple of reasons. I've got questions because it's so early in the season, but Caleb feels like he has a good feel for what's going to happen in the college football playoffs. But I want to address one question by the message board. Was it Dave or Caleb who said Peyton Lewis was going to have more yards than Sampson? I think that was you, but I'm going to defend Caleb on that. I still think that Peyton Lewis is going to at least take over the second team role by midseason. So maybe you were a little too high on Peyton Lewis, or Caleb, maybe we were both a little too low on Deshaun Bishop.
Maybe I need to listen more to Josh Pate, who talked about people overreacting to what they see in college football week to week and not thinking about the overall. And I've been doing that with Dylan Sampson. So you know what? I was high on Dylan Sampson as a potential Heisman contender. I'm changing it. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going down with the ship. Peyton Lewis is going to take the starting job from Dylan Sampson. It'll be after the Oklahoma game, and he's going to finish with more yards than Dylan Sampson. I'm going down with the ship. Bring it. Come on, guys.
Own it. No, I don't think that's going to happen. The MVP for the Vols against Oklahoma will be, that's our poll question. Vote on that right now. Nico gets 31% of the vote. Dylan Sampson gets 31% of the vote. James Pierce gets 28% of the vote. Other 9%. And Keenan Pili would top my list of others. That's who I think can be a superstar. Now, he might not pan out in the NFL because he's had a lot of injuries and he's older. But that's who I think can be a superstar that really was not on our superstar watch list. I've been astounded by his sideline to sideline speed. I kind of had him envisioned as the Mike Singletary type I had him envisioned as that. But what he is the Ray Lewis type, because Ray Lewis played middle backer and could get sideline to sideline. He's the best true linebacker, in my opinion, to ever play football. I don't count Lawrence Taylor because Lawrence Taylor was like an edge rusher. He was allowed to line up wherever he wanted to. Lawrence Taylor's the best defensive player in the history of football, but Ray Lewis may be the best linebacker. Keenan Pili may prove to be the best true linebacker, not a James Pierce who's an edge rusher and can move around and do things and drop into coverage. But finish this statement before we get to your bracketology. Keenan Pili can be the Vols' best true linebacker since.
Jalen Reese-Maben was a heck of a linebacker for Tennessee.
That's good. But I think you would agree, though, that when Keenan Pili brings the fury, he's bringing a little bit more than Jalen Reese-Maben. Well,
here's the underrated part about Keenan Pili. And guys, bear with me because this is a little bit of getting into the weeds of talking ball a little bit. But Tim Banks, one of the issues for the pass defense 2 years ago, we put it all on the secondary. What a lot of y'all didn't see was that Aaron Beasley had to be out of position, and Jeremy Banks didn't have a lot of lateral quickness. And so the only type of blitz packages or the only type of stunts and schemes that Tim Banks could draw up were all vertical. They all had to be vertical, and that limited. That's why Florida with Anthony Richardson was able to get back into the game late, because you can exploit vertical attacks. And I think Keenan Pili, by having the lateral quickness that he does, Dave, that allows so much more creativity for Tim Banks to do what he wants to do. And this isn't something new. Lateral quickness is the most underrated part of a middle linebacker. It took John Chavis how many years to figure out, I need a linebacker with lateral quickness to stop Steve Spurrier's fun and gun. I mean, and then they try to act like, we really cracked the code on this. I'm like, no, you just needed an extra fast player out there.
Okay, you're not as old as me, but you nailed it, because my first favorite defensive player was Tyrone Hines. Who's old enough to remember Tyrone Hines? Linebacker, I believe, wore number 40. Anybody out there? If you are, say so on the message board. So basically what he could do was blitz and play the run. Okay, but he was probably on that team one of Tennessee's better defenders and a team leader. So, but and very little lateral. So what did they do? They went out and got guys like Al Wilson, Dominique Stevenson, Raynoch Thompson. A lot of those guys played running back in high school. So they had lateral. So that was even probably slightly before your time, but you absolutely nailed it. That was a conscious effort to go after guys that had more mobility. And the thing that blew me away, and it's very similar to when Josh Heupel sits down and tells an offensive lineman that you're going to enjoy being a part of this, because as Josh Pate said earlier, they're being negatively recruited against because they run so many plays. But to convince them that, no, you're going to be okay. It's going to be fine. You're going to have a great time. You're going to win championships. You may play a little bit more here, but we're also going to run the ball. Reminds me of the argument that Philip Fulmer, or the sales pitch, I should say, that Philip Fulmer used to have with running backs in high school that were oftentimes the best athletes on their team, and talking them into willingly move to linebacker. That was one of Philip Fulmer's most underrated maneuvers as a recruiter. How many guys that he put, and let's take Fred White. Okay, Fred White, people, I mean, you don't think this, but he was about to run in the Olympics, and he shows up and they have so many corners, they want to move him to safety, so they tell him to put on weight. But he ran 10-2 in the 100 meters. But anyway, the whole team was selfless, which ties it all back to why this team reminds me of the 98 team, because of the chemistry, because there is accountability in the locker room. Josh Pate said something, and then we're going to get to bracketology, and also we're going to get to stat of the day. But Josh Pate said something recently on the sidelines at Georgia about how Georgia's issues off the field were absolutely ridiculous. He's right. And he also said that he believes the coaching staff has done all they can to intervene. I think he's right too. But at some point, somebody has to say, one of the players has to say, hey, listen, dip blank, don't do that anymore in your car. So another incident came up, Caleb, but it's internal leadership. I don't care how great of a leader Josh Heupel is. If he doesn't have internal leadership with his teammate, with his team and his players, like Cooper Mays, Keenan Pili, I could list off some other great leaders I've been told about. If he doesn't have that, he can be the best leader in the world, and it doesn't matter.
No, you're right. That's very true. And that's a great point. And the only time it doesn't matter, like, to have those type of leaders is once you build up the cachet Nick Saban built up. Like when he was at Alabama, Nick Saban didn't need good leaders for Alabama. Nick Saban, you know this, Dave. He had such a stature about him that, like, it just naturally got players to fall in line, didn't it?
Well, I would say that those players fell in line to be internal leaders because of him, but you still had an Alvin Kamara, for instance, that transferred out because he didn't want to be any part of it.
Well, that's a good point. And also, maybe was this more about Nick Saban? Was he very good at evaluating character guys to be leaders on the trail? Like, he knew that this guy could be a leader for my team. And
I think Josh Heupel is very good at that. Bracketology.
That was actually, that's actually one of the things that derailed for him in the 2000s. I think as Georgia got good again, as other schools got good, he couldn't be as selective on character guys he wanted to recruit as he was probably in the 90s.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The only smart thing that Derek Dooley ever said is there's a bell curve. and that you want your guys to be in the middle, but you'll take a risk on some guys that are elite talents that may have a checkered past, where on the other end, you've got to have some guys that are great leaders, but don't have the same skill set. Will Brooks, prime example right there.